Hey y'all, Scott here. I am professional. Oh, wait, sorry. Merriam-Webster just changed the spelling of that word. So let me start again. I am professional.
Sometimes it's good to state the obvious.
Yeah, I'm a gamer. I give a fuck.
So naturally, you gotta put your money where your mouth is. Wear it loud and proud. How else will your burglar know?
Oh God, let's get out of here. This gamer gives a fuck.
A professional video game console. That's it! The go-to solution to prove you mean business. You require the best possible experience because I will not tolerate anything less than perfection from my games.
I'm worth more than this.
I need my games to run the best, look the best, be the best, because this can go f itself. Well, thankfully, turns out there's a product out there for the exact kind of gamer I am.
Okay, but picture this. My name is fucking stupid.
Oh, yeah, no problem.
Hey y'all, fucking stupid here.
A pro console. Mid-generation refresh, revision, upgrade, whatever you want to call them. It don't matter. We all know what these are. It's the system you know and love on the juice. A nice concept, no doubt. I mean, who'd pass up a more powerful console? Why, the man with only $749 to spare? Hey, now, these are non-essential luxury upgrades. You're not expected to buy them. You're expected to want to. Witness Play Unleashed? The most impressive visuals, astonishing detail, advanced ray tracing? Oh my God, I need that so bad. This isn't just ray tracing, whatever that is. It's now advanced whatever that is. All right, you got me, Sony. I'll bite. Again. Yeah, this ain't our first rodeo. We've been down this exact path before with the PlayStation 4 Pro back in 2016. I remember seeing rumors floating around about a PlayStation 4.5 or 4K, eventually seeing the codename Neo popping up with Sony officially confirming the project was in the works right before E3 2016, telling us to expect 4K support and improved graphics. And lo and behold, when they finally announced the thing later that September, they said it had 4K support and improved graphics. What a reveal! Next, you're gonna tell me it has 4K support and improved graphics. Oh my God. At 399 bones, this costs the same as the original standard PS4 did back when it launched in 2013, which at this point in time was only $299. So I don't think this was an unreasonable upgrade, but I'd say for the majority of pre-existing PS4 users, it was an unnecessary one. Like, here's a game on PS4, then here's PS4 Pro. Night and day difference? In Alaska, sure. Nah, but I mean, it says it right in the name. This is still just a PS4. It's just for freaks now. If all you're expecting is a slightly more stable and higher quality experience across the board, then it's hard to be disappointed in the PS4 Pro. If all you're expecting is what the marketing made it out to be.
Wow, that's a fair price for Jesus Christ himself.
What the hell are you talking about, inspiring new worlds? The PS4 Pro never received any exclusive games or really anything more than enhanced frame rates and resolutions. What you're implying here is with the power of this console, developers can finally fulfill their wildest fantasies, bringing you to worlds never before possible. Behold, Horizon Zero Dawn with 2 more blades of grass. Now, I personally upgraded to this console on Black Friday 2018. This Red Dead 2 bundle was $399, plus it came with a $50 GameStop gift card. Absolute no-brainer. Of course, I could have bought something I didn't already own a nearly identical variant of, but no, see, like, game was $60 on its own, $50 gift card, plus the unbeatable feeling that taking advantage of a deal brings you.
I'm in debt.
To be fair, I think by this point, the Pro was a far sounder buy than it was within its first year or so on the market. Back when it launched, games would only run better on the platform if they got PS4 Pro specific patches. And even then, some games ran worse here than they did on PS4. What the hell was that about?
I don't know, but I hope it helps in my never-ending quest to figure out what this word means.
Well, eventually, Sony introduced this here boost mode feature, basically forcing games to run better, even if they weren't designed with PS4 Pro in mind. Alright, now we're getting somewhere. What else can this thing do?
Well, the ability to not play 4K Blu-rays. God, what the f does it mean?
Listen, I'm not gonna act like I have this big collection of 4K Blu-rays I'm itching to watch on my PS4 Pro. But what if I did? You don't know me. I just find it incredibly odd that this console, with this massive focus on how it can output at 4K resolution, released by one of the main companies behind the Blu-ray format, doesn't support 4K Blu-rays. But you know what did? The Xbox One S, which released months before the PS4 Pro at $299 and was not positioned as a Pro console. Yeah, this was for fucking dweebs, not fucking dorks. Now, why did Sony not include this feature? Well, let me ask general audience out here on the street. Did you want the PS4 Pro to include 4K Blu-ray support?
To be fair, that wasn't a no.
Boy, me personally, I'd say I got some good use out of my Pro. I picked it up alongside this PlayStation VR bundle, which honestly probably was where the Pro shined the most. Smaller improvements go a long way in VR to provide you with the most immersive experience possible, and with the PSVR looking like this on the original PS4, I will take whatever I can get.
Well, thanks for whatever I can get.
To be fair, a lot of the improvements brought forth by PS4 Pro are only really noticeable when you're actually playing it. So when I'm looking at these comparison videos online and the comments are going, my God, the differences. It's like comparing Jesus to Satan himself. I mean, I'm looking at this and going, I think I'm agnostic. When you're actually using a Pro, things definitely feel pretty smooth here, but to be honest, while I'd play this thing, I'd be thinking, wow, these games look so good, it must be that PS4 Pro magic. Can't imagine what they look like on some dog shit regular PS4, when in reality, yeah, I could. Going back to the base console isn't nearly as bad as you'd think it would be. Playing on the Pro long enough will do that to you. Really made me think the original PS4 would be this intolerable mess, when in reality, I mean, most games are designed to run well on this hardware. Yeah, this is better, but it's nothing drastic. But hey, maybe that's just my little old Nintendo baby bitch brain tolerating looking at dog shit visuals for hours on end.
This Nintendo game looks fine.
I'll give Sony this. They made it pretty damn obvious this ain't for everyone. That you really weren't missing out on much by sticking with a base PS4. At least for the time being. I mean, one of the big inclusions here was HDR support, which really wasn't popularized in TVs until a few years later. And by that point, the PS5 was on the horizon. That's sort of the point of this console. It helped future-proof the PS4, so by the time we got to the PS5, it wasn't like falling apart or anything. But you could have very reasonably stuck with a regular PS4 throughout that whole generation. And you would have been so sexy doing it. This original system has one of the most striking yet functional designs of any console. On an unrelated note, the PS4 Pro always looked dumb as hell to me. Like, oh, how can we convey this as a more powerful PS4?
Well, they do say two-layer consoles are for pussies.
What the hell is this? This just tries to expand upon the original PS4's design, but completely misses the point. Like, this was a sleek rhombus with these quadrants, this divide housing the disc slot, these segments being the power and eject buttons extending into this light. It's so unique, yet incredibly practical. Unlike a certain white bastard. Oh, give me more credit. In comparison, while the PS4 Pro's design is practical, it took the perfect look of the PS4 and removed all defining elements aside from the PS4 looks like a sandwich, don't it? So make it a bigger sandwich. Yeah, and with this design language, we never have to think about what the next PS4 Pro will look like ever again.
My ceiling.
The PS4 Pro wasn't a game changer, but it definitely helped organically extend the PS4's lifespan. And hey, you needed something to compete with whatever the hell Xbox was cooking up, because right alongside talk of an improved PS4, there were the exact same kind of rumors floating around about an improved Xbox One. Project Scorpio was the codename announced at E3 2016, affirming that this is going to be the most powerful console ever crafted. Jesus Christ, I mean, the PS4 Pro wasn't even formally announced yet, and they were already saying, yeah, it's more powerful than that. Hey, I mean, that's exactly what us gamers love to hear, right? No pissing around, not telling us specs don't matter, your feelings do. No, 6 teraflops of GPU power, 8 CPU cores, over 320 gigabytes per second of memory bandwidth. This guy straight up said to me, these are the specs gamers want.
Oh, it's everything I've ever wanted! Somebody talking to me!
What exactly am I gonna do with any of this information? I'm not making games for the thing. But with how dramatic they're spilling this info, you'd think this was to be like a life-changing product. They're saying this was the console everybody's been waiting for. It's removing barriers, limitations, there's endless possibilities. They're really going for it. They're creating something unlike anything you've ever seen before. And I'm like, guys, It's just a better Xbox One. It's the same as the PS4 Pro's marketing. Like, what creative possibilities does this new hardware truly bring you? Well, in this reveal trailer, Todd Howard says it's great this machine is powerful enough for Fallout 4 VR. Like, okay, virtual reality support. Sure, that's reason enough to get excited over the possibilities here. Yeah, that didn't happen.
Imagine the possibilities? That means anything's possible. Even this not being possible.
Okay, sure, at the time, these specs were a pretty big leap. But because it's still just an Xbox One and it can't have exclusive experiences to it, all this upgrade really amounts to is an Xbox One that plays the same games at high resolutions, frame rates, with faster load times, which is great and all, but the way they're announcing this, I feel like I should be crying. To be fair, this was Microsoft's last big push to turn things around this generation. I mean, the Xbox One was originally less powerful than the PS4. Now, halfway through, you're telling me all these games are actually gonna run better on Xbox? Well, here's how Microsoft expected us to respond.
Well, golly, I gotta get me one right there, Xbox.
Here's how I did.
You!
What the hell? I just spent all this time building up my library on PS4 because that was where all these third-party games ran and looked the best. But that's just not the case anymore. Years later, Phil Spencer of Xbox said this was the worst generation for them to lose, as everybody built up their game libraries, which sort of locked them into sticking with that specific console brand. So it's obvious in hindsight, even with this new Xbox having the best specs and being the spot to play third-party games, didn't mean a damn thing to most PS4 owners. You already set shop up there. Nothing was gonna make you change your mind. Not even, damn it, my Achilles heel. Whatever the fuck that is. Now, Microsoft definitely needed a leg up on Sony at the time, and because they couldn't really compete with the PS4's game lineup, they decided to focus elsewhere, like backwards compatibility, introducing Xbox Game Pass, and having the best hardware on the market. Definitely made for some healthy competition and gave us a lot to think about as consumers. Would you rather have the most powerful game console, or a game console with games you want to play?
Game console with games I want to play.
Well, what came of this project released in November of 2017 at 499 bones, it's the Xbox One X. Not the Xbox One B, G, P, or H. Nah, this is the letter that conveys power, and it's cute while it does it. Many have pointed out when abbreviated, Xbox One X is Xbox. Well, I was rooting for Xbox One Next Gen or NG, but yeah, that don't work as well. And hey, if you were strangely attached to the Project Scorpio name, you were thrown a bone with the limited Project Scorpio edition of the console. There were rumors of the final name just flat out being Xbox Scorpio, but I don't know. I'm sure some retailer had to input something at one point, and Xbox Scorpio makes more sense than Project Scorpio. And I think some people believed it because sometimes you get so used to a codename being used for so long, you start to think, oh yeah, that makes sense on store shelves. But logistically, you start naming your Xboxes after astrology signs, it ain't gonna end well. But I think this name makes a ton of sense, especially next to the Xbox One S. It's pretty clear cut. This is the powerful one, this is the slim one, even though the Xbox One X is slimmer. And this is one of the most basic designs for any game console I've ever seen, but I can't deny how it looks really nice. It may just be a black box, but it's one hell of a sleek one. Weirdly enough, it's shaped sort of like a mirrored PlayStation 2. And you know what's the coolest thing about that? You can do whatever you want with that information. I don't care. Well, damn, this is just the ultimate Xbox One now, ain't it? Then I should just hop right in. What the hell am I waiting for?
For the poison I just drank to take effect.
Listen, I'm not saying the Xbox One X isn't a great piece of hardware, at least for its time. But regardless of how powerful these Xbox consoles are, it's hard for me to fully appreciate them when I have just had the worst experiences with their menu systems. They're so sluggish and glitchy. Every time I want to jump into a game, there's a million updates, and for some reason, these Xbox systems always feel the slowest when downloading or installing anything. Hell, booting this thing up takes so damn long, even compared to an original PS4. It takes its damn time, even adds this whole animation at the beginning showing the 4K chip going to work. The Xbox One X is more than happy giving you the best quality console experience. The only thing it asks for in return is your self-respect.
You take as much time as you want, I don't matter.
Okay, now, while the speed may be less than desirable at times, the end results are still pretty damn good, especially if you were upgrading from an original Xbox One, which, yeah, this is rough to go back to. I mean, you can do it. You can also do this, and I can't even show it.
Yeah, it's pretty bad.
Because of how quickly that original console was aging, I'd say this was a far more necessary upgrade than the PS4 Pro was. But it also wasn't at the same time. In terms of performance, the Xbox One X is honestly pretty comparable to its successor, the Xbox Series X, in many ways. Now, obviously, the Series X is better, but I was pretty impressed with how well the One X holds up. Though, looking back in hindsight, the fact that this console only had 3 years in the limelight just to be replaced with an actual next-gen machine with the lifespan of a normal game system that did everything the One X did, plus play exclusive new games launching at the exact same price, almost makes this feel like a waste of time in the grand scheme of things. Hell, it was even discontinued just a few months before the Series X launched. As good of a product the Xbox One X is, it is the definition of a stopgap. Now, you could say the same about any of these Pro consoles, but that feeling really smacks you in the face here. The Series X pretty much just added upon what the One X was already doing, with the most tangible upgrade being far faster load times.
But that doesn't mean this wasn't a great device. I wouldn't call it a great console, but it was a great device.
While they did quickly replace it, the Xbox One X served its purpose and then some during its time on the shelves. I'd say this was a great first attempt at a Pro console revision by Microsoft, but I'd be lying, because it wasn't their first attempt. Remember this thing? The Xbox One Elite, released in November of 2015 at $499, came bundled with the fancy-ass Elite controller, but more notably featured 1 terabyte of hybrid storage, meaning you got the size capacity of a standard mechanical hard drive with some of the benefits of a much faster loading SSD. So this version of the console loads everything a bit quicker, which a quicker Xbox One is like a softer, jagged knife.
This felt better than the last. In addition, the console now has a matte finish instead of a glossy one, or half of it is, I guess. The Elite still has a glossy finish on the right side because I guess that's a crucial element to the Xbox One experience, which, you know, makes sense. This was actually a pretty damn good deal considering this Elite controller on its own was $150. Meaning the console in the package was $350. And with storage like this back in 2015, you'd be a fool not to scoop this up at that price. I mean, what would you rather have? Game console with games I want to play. Now, this definitely isn't doing the same sort of thing as an Xbox One X or PS4 Pro, but neither was this, yet would you look at that? I'm talking about it anyways. The Xbox 360 Pro. Yeah, what makes this Pro? Well, it has a hard drive. Oh, you're still listening? The Xbox 360 console variations always confused the hell out of me with their names back in the day. I had no idea what the difference between the Core, Arcade, and Elite were. On top of finding out now there was another model called the Pro. Okay, Core pretty much just means this is the core package, the bare essentials. Though, as a kid, I thought this was referring to the hardcore gamer, but no, I wouldn't even piss in this thing's direction. But then they replaced the Core with the Arcade, which, okay, I guess they were going for, hey, this is the fucking family fun box, but why call it Arcade when you could just call it that? And then there's the Elite, the big boy, best-in-class edition of the 360. So, okay, this was the replacement for the Xbox 360 Pro. Actually, let me correct that statement. There we go. None of these names meant a goddamn thing. What made the Xbox 360 Pro Pro? It had a hard drive. The Elite? Bigger hard drive. Hell, I don't see the term Xbox 360 Pro anywhere outside of ancient store listings and press releases. On the Elite's box, they have this diagram explaining the differences, and the Pro is just called the Xbox 360. Man, what was the point of all these title distinctions when fundamentally the Arcade, Pro, and Elite are all the same? They just have different hard drives, which that's not unique. You can remove and swap them around. Strange how you have these Xbox consoles named like this, and if anything, the Xbox One S is more of a Pro console than they ever were. 4K Blu-ray support, and it was actually a bit more powerful than the original Xbox One. Yet this is marketed more to the casual consumer, and these come with the strict guideline for not pussies only. Well, hey, Pro consoles don't necessarily need a name that conveys how the word girth makes me feel. Take, for example, the supercharged, power-hungry follow-up to Game Boy. God damn, I love power.
If any company is guilty of pumping out Pro consoles, oddly enough, it's Nintendo. They just don't really label them as such. Like what, does the name Nintendo DSi make me less insecure about what I'm doing here? But in many ways, these are sort of the ultimate Pro consoles because they often give you legitimate reasons to upgrade to them. On paper, the Game Boy Color, Nintendo DSi, and new Nintendo 3DS are all upgraded handhelds with better internals, unique features, but most notably, the ability to play exclusive games. That's something all the other consoles we've looked at have steered clear from, but not Nintendo. No, they said the Nintendo DSi is too powerful to waste this opportunity.
Upgrade or get left behind.
The DSi's exclusive games mostly came in the form of downloadable titles, which makes total sense. You know, there's no way you could accidentally buy a digital DSi game for your DS Lite. But for some reason, a couple companies put a few out at retail because this can't be contained. It's really strange considering something like this hair salon game definitely didn't need to be a DSi exclusive. You rarely ever use the built-in camera, and when you do, it's just this superfluous little bonus thing. Plenty of DS games have DSi exclusive features where this kind of stuff works on a DSi, but is disabled on a regular DS. Why this couldn't have been just that is beyond me, but hey, Photo Showdown and System Flaw use the DSi more extensively, so alright. Keep up the pace with these exclusives, and I'll consider saying the DSi having exclusive retail games wasn't a complete waste.
Huh. Consider it considered.
Yeah, not only are these exclusive games few and far between, but they weren't impactful in the slightest. I am sorry, System Flaw truthers. But when we're talking what makes the DSi unique, we're mainly talking the downloadable games. And, okay, the Nintendo DSi is more powerful than a standard DS, yeah. But you don't see too much of that horsepower on display within the games themselves. You mostly see it in the menus, which, hey, the DSi doesn't have an aneurysm if you eject a game like the original systems did.
Hey now, if somebody ripped this out of you, you'd probably freeze up too.
Now, some games do run a bit better on DSi, like Sonic Classic Collection, but the majority of games that are DSi enhanced just include bonus camera functionality. 99% of the DS games you play here run exactly as they do on a normal DS. What the DSi brings to the table is a more stable and functional menu infrastructure, downloadable games, and dicking around. There's definitely more substantial additions here than with something like the PS4 Pro, but while that Pro console focused on the games, the DSi kind of focuses on everything surrounding them. Case in point, removing the Game Boy Advance slot. What, I'm paying for this? Could have done this myself just with some spackle. Definitely made it harder to consider this upgrade as you're effectively cutting the games playable on DS in half. Now obviously the percentage of people actively playing GBA games on their DS was low enough for them to warrant doing this, but that don't make it right. You looking to up your game? Boom! Everybody's doing it, so no, I wouldn't call the DSi an ideal Pro console upgrade. I think it was necessary to bring the DS platform more up to speed with what you'd expect out of a game system in 2009. And while this does meet the quota for what I'd consider to be a Pro console, I don't think it does a great job at being one. The new Nintendo 3DS, on the other hand, this is a Pro console through and through. The increased horsepower improves the user experience so much. Now, instead of having a god-awful web browser, the new 3DS just has a shitty one. The enhanced speed of everything, I wouldn't call it fast, I'd just say it's tolerable now. A nice assortment of titles take advantage of the improved hardware with faster load times, higher quality graphics, better frame rates. I mean, this is the definitive spot to play the worst version of Hyrule Warriors. We got an extra set of shoulder buttons alongside Sensor That. The C-Stick! You know, in the early days of the 3DS, people were begging for a revised model with a second circle pad included. But you know what I said? I said, yeah, but I don't want that right now. I want that in 4 years. And I also want something that isn't a second circle pad. This is an immovable pencil eraser as nub meant for camera control and very little else. And very little else includes just more camera control. It reads where your thumb is like a touchscreen input. I guess it does the job for basic camera movements, but it's not ideal in the slightest. I wouldn't say it's bad, I wouldn't say it's good. I'd say it's just right at being damn strange. Like the DSi, new 3DS also received some exclusive titles, though these were far more compelling, with even more as digital downloads, like Super Nintendo games. Yeah, those were only playable on new 3DS. With the awesome power of this supercharged hardware, this is finally possible on the 3DS.
Who knew dog shit could run cat shit?
I refuse to believe they couldn't get Super Nintendo games running on the original 3DS systems. I mean, fans have got this working. It's more than possible. This definitely reads to me as Nintendo trying to add more value to the new 3DS and just kind of forcing these to be exclusives. But I think considering everything else it's bringing to the table, this was kind of a no-brainer of an upgrade. I just think it came out a little too late for many to give a damn. For me personally, by the time this launched, the 3DS wasn't really my primary focus in gaming. I would still play it consistently, but not enough to warrant buying into this premium version. The vast majority of games I would crack my 3DS out for didn't really need the new 3DS, and certain additions like the super stable eye-tracking 3D screen and NFC reader for built-in amiibo support. Well, when I would play my 3DS, I wasn't really using the 3D or amiibos with it all too much. Now, I did finally upgrade to one of these units in 2016, and goddamn, I played through one hell of a Donkey Kong Country Returns 3D on it. Now, did I need a new 3DS to do that? These were both solid upgrades, but when you're actually in the thick of it playing most games, there's not really much of a difference. I think these Pro consoles are most compelling when you see massive improvements across the board. For example, the Game Boy Color might just be the most impactful Pro console upgrade of all time.
If only I could tell.
Now, I've been pretty damn picky about the concept of Game Boy Color being nothing but an upgrade to the original Game Boy because I always considered it to be the very first true successor. I claimed I'd be dead and buried by the time I admit that, but now Nintendo officially lumps Game Boy Color in whenever they talk about the original Game Boy, so alright, I concede.
Considering I have 17 minutes to live, I thought, might as well.
But I mean, could you blame me for thinking that way? Just look at all of the exclusive Game Boy Color games that released. And most of them also work on the original Game Boy. Yeah, I have no idea how I've never heard anybody talk about any sort of confusion surrounding this. Like, barely anything on this package tells me this game will work on a regular Game Boy. It's all on the cartridge itself. If it's black, you're good to go. If it's see-through, whatever's the opposite of this.
I'm about to stop.
Alright, so even if these were labeled as Game Boy Color games on the packaging, fundamentally, these were still just original Game Boy games that were programmed with full color support in mind when played on a Game Boy Color. But what about the older standard gray Game Boy cartridges? The game's only ever designed for black and white. It says here on the box they'll play in enhanced color. Oh boy, Super Mario Land in color? Holy shit. They've really undersold this. It's not just in color, it's in 2 colors. Original Game Boy games on Game Boy Color look better, I guess, but the added color does feel a bit unnatural at times. It's blatantly obvious these games were never designed with color in mind, so Nintendo just assigned basic limited color palettes to them. Though it is really impressive how well these work out sometimes. Thing is, Nintendo took as much of the original pre-Game Boy Color library of titles as they could and pre-assigned appropriate color palettes to each of them. So deep in the Game Boy Color's code is the sentence, "Make Bubble Ghost green." But hell, if the assigned palette isn't doing it for you, you can swap between a bunch others. Like, yeah, this is how I feel today.
Disturbed.
Listen, Game Boy Color may not give these older games the most colorful graphics, but it's better than nothing. Something like Donkey Kong Land is damn near playable now. Even if the added color doesn't really look good, it still improves the experience and showcases how the Game Boy Color was a necessary upgrade, not a luxury one. Unlike the Nintendo Switch OLED model, which is for the anti-peasant. Jesus Christ, talk about an unnecessary upgrade. I mean, it's a good product, but all of the additions here feel like they're building up to something greater. A bigger OLED screen.
Yeah.
A dock with built-in Ethernet.
Okay.
Double the internal storage.
Go on.
That's it.
You.
While I was always happy with my Switch OLED, it did feel like an incomplete product to me. Something that would have made more sense if it was, I don't know, an actual Pro console, a Nintendo Switch Pro, if you will. Pretty obvious, even just a couple years into the Switch's life, that it desperately needed some extra juice. I mean, even Nintendo themselves were putting out assy-looking content. Like, there's no way they were thinking, this is all we need. If any console deserved a Pro model, it was this one. And we got it all right.
By this logic, I'm a Pro version of my dad.
Playing Nintendo Switch 1 games on Switch 2 can yield incredible results.
Hey, that's incredible in its own special special way.
For the most part, Switch 1 games can run so much better on Switch 2. Of course, it depends what game you try. Some games, there's no difference at all. Some games don't work at all. But thanks to the better specs, some games that had frame rate issues before are actually stable now. Plus, some got updates bumping the resolution to 4K. This is a great successor. Wait, what is that? Oh my god! Wait. Oh, Jesus!
See, this is what these Pro consoles have done. They've warped my perception on what a console successor should look like. They make the current generation feel better while making the next generation feel lesser. But hey, in the case of the PlayStation 5 Pro, it makes me feel lesser.
I'm so fucking stupid.
The PlayStation 5 Pro released in November of 2024 at 699 bones.
Oh, could this get any worse?
It is now 750.
Oh, could this get any worse?
All right, I'll stop. When rumors of a PS5 Pro started circulating, it just didn't feel right. Like, the PlayStation 5 didn't really ever feel like it was necessarily being pushed to its limits. Like, this console already wasn't enough. Sure, there's been a few examples of big games running poorly, like Final Fantasy VII Rebirth and Black Myth Wukong. But are the issues with these games truly because the PS5 just isn't powerful enough? Or is it more so because of some hiccups on the development side of things? I would assume it wouldn't have been impossible to get these games running better, but logistically, it probably would have taken too much time and money to get that to happen. Though I'm sure these issues could have been ironed out, says the not game developer.
Hey, go yourself. I know game development. I've played Assassin's Creed 2 for 40 minutes.
Even when you can point to some games running suboptimally, PS5 Pro didn't feel warranted to me. The PlayStation 5 library was filled to the brim with games also releasing on PS4, and thanks to the PS4 Pro, the line dividing these console generations was blurrier than ever before. The PS5 generation just felt like it never truly fully started. Like we didn't see the full potential of this system since most PS5 games were designed to work on a base PS4. And now you're saying this console isn't enough? At least the PS4 Pro had the excuse of bumping things up to 4K. The PS5 Pro? Well, 8K of course! And yes, the PS8 Pro will support 20K. Who the hell had an 8K TV in 2024? Actually, I have a better question. The original PS5 shipped with an 8K logo on the box back in 2020. Oh hey, my Atari comes with wireless controllers. So I guess Sony wanted to future-proof the PS5 by giving it the capability of outputting at 8K, but nothing really ever used it, and it's not even something you can enable in the console's options. Hell, because of that, the one game that actually supported 8K on PS5 couldn't be viewed in 8K. The PS5 will only let you do 4K output. And when this is the PS5's one 8K game we're talking about, like, it's a nice looking game and all, but it's obvious that it could achieve 8K due to its simpler style. Still definitely a cool feat, but I wouldn't say this is a great showcase for 8K gaming. So the PS5 could do 8K, but it couldn't do 8K. And with no real video content available in 8K, alongside nobody buying 8K TVs, Sony quietly removed that logo from PS5 packaging. So even though the PS5 Pro actually does some 8K stuff, it's obvious 8K isn't a selling point. So what the hell is then? Well, Sony announced they were holding a PlayStation technical presentation, which does not sound like this is where they're revealing a new console. It sounds like this is where they're revealing the weather. But I guess they did that to temper expectations because the PS5 Pro is not meant for average everyday consumers. Hell, I don't even think it's meant for somebody who enjoys the finer things in life. It's like I would argue 99% of the people buying iPhone Pros just want the nicest iPhone. They're not going to use any of the things that make it pro. I should know. But even for those kind of people, I think the PS5 Pro is pushing it a bit. This was meant for people who not only knew what ray tracing was, but actively cared about it. So it went from 2 people to 1. This presentation got right to it. The PS5 has a problem, and it's the fact that gamers have to choose between 4K visuals and high frame rates. Fidelity versus performance. Which side are you on? Buddy, you're too old to say you're not into politics. Most players would opt for performance mode, as it just flat out feels better to play a game at 60 frames per second. And while fidelity mode is Fideliter, I mean, putting them side by side, is there really a noticeable difference? Yeah, if we zoom in, you can probably point something out, but like, we're splitting hairs here. Oh, but the ray tracing is better in graphics mode. That's what's taking up so much computing power the game has to run at 30 frames per second?
You wanna see all my pores? It's gonna cost ya.
To be honest, a few years back, I wasn't really all too observant when it came to frame rates. Didn't care if a game was running at 30, 60, what the hell ever. I wasn't thinking about it all too much. I mean, the PS4 Pro mostly advertised 4K visuals. The original PS5 was mostly advertising faster load times and the coolest fucking thing ever. So when given the choice, not only was graphics mode usually the default, but I didn't understand why it shouldn't be. So when I played some of my first few PS5 games like Spider-Man Miles Morales and Ratchet & Clank Rift Apart, they were all running at 30 frames per second. And knowing what I know now, jumping into these games with performance mode enabled, what the f was my problem? This feels infinitely better. But at what cost? The puddles aren't as shiny and reflective? Buddy, normal puddles aren't meant to look this good. You ever look outside? The real world looks like shit. Well, regardless, PS5 Pro aimed to combine performance and fidelity modes, giving you the highest quality visuals at the highest possible frame rates. Behold how games will look on PS5 Pro. One of the biggest issues with these Pro consoles is how difficult it is to really notice any substantial differences via these comparisons online. When you have to slow down footage and zoom in to notice anything, you're pretty much admitting right there this isn't a necessary upgrade. It's like they have to convince you there's a difference. And yeah, there is. But during this presentation, when they're using a PS4 game to showcase the PS5 Pro and it's like the hardest game of spot the difference I've ever endured, I mean, it just begs the questions. Why is this necessary? Who is this for? Because if you looked at the original PS5 and thought that isn't enough for you, Bubba, I think you just need to switch over to PC at that point. But hey, I get it. The console lifestyle is a hard one to give up, and even when the PS5 Pro retailed for $700, that's still cheaper than building a high-end PC in most cases. Though to be fair, I'd say if you're buying a PS5 Pro, you probably already had a PS5 to begin with, so that's about $1,200 spent overall. But if you're a Pro user, you're probably pretty passionate about your collection of video games, so moving to PC doesn't make sense if you want to keep playing the...
Where were you when you found out your god was dead?
The PS5 Pro is a disc-free console by default. Oh, what? They'll say this, but they won't call it an asbestos-free console? That's f***ed up. So, the redesigned PS5 Slim that hit store shelves in 2023 had a detachable disk drive, which, on one hand, requires a one-time internet connection to register and verify it upon connecting it to your console. Everybody, say it with me now. But on the other hand, I really like that this meant a PS5 Digital Edition could be upgraded to one with a disc drive later down the line if you wanted to purchase the attachment. With the original, if you bought a digital model, you were stuck with a digital model. So this change is good for the consumer, and it makes things easier for Sony. Instead of having to produce two different PS5s, you just have one single model with a disc drive on the side, either included in the box or available separately. Now, the PS5 Pro, I think Sony's rationale was, this is a niche product, so why bother having two versions on store shelves? You can just buy the disc drive separately anyways. Who cares? Vertical stand sold separately. Oh, and the controller included here? Not the pro-oriented DualSense Edge. No. Just a regular-ass PS5 controller. Not that that isn't fine. It's just, I don't see $750 of value here. That's nearly twice the price of a regular PS5 Digital Edition. And when you're not including a disc drive, DualSense Edge, hell, a damn vertical stand which came in the box with the original PS5 model, I just start to think the unthinkable. That's impossible. But listen, when I say that, I'm not saying the components that make up a PS5 Pro aren't expensive. When you consider all the tech packed into this thing, the price point makes more sense than it doesn't. But does that actually make this a worthwhile product? Because in the end, most of these games look and run the damn same here. Think about it this way. $400 table, $700 table. The $700 table is more premium. It's made out of finer wood. Still a fucking table. And it's not like the $400 table is bad. I mean, it's $400 damn dollars. That's a lot of money. It does everything a table should. It's built to last. The $700 one costs more to produce, so it's not like they're ripping you off, but like, you just don't need this when this does everything that does at a comparable quality at nearly half the price. But okay, let's see what the PS5 Pro does that's just so damn special. Ratchet & Clank Rift Apart. All right, finally, we don't have to deal with no damn performance mode versus quality mode, just one single. You gotta be fucking kidding me. All right, so we still have two options here, though both of them are supercharged, I guess. Performance mode now looks like it's running at a far higher resolution thanks to PSSR. Now, you're probably asking, Scott, what is the Soviet Union doing to up the resolution? And then I'm going, no, PSSR. Now, you're probably going, Scott, what is a pisser doing to up the resolution? PlayStation Spectral Super Resolution. Basically, it's a powerful form of AI upscaling, so even when the game is running at 60 frames per second, you get a higher quality image. But if you want an even higher quality image, a naturally higher quality image, you have Fidelity Mode Pro. I find with some games on PS5 Pro, there's too many options where I get a bit confused, like, okay, Spider-Man 2 also has Performance Pro and Fidelity Pro. Then these other graphical options pop up when selecting Fidelity Pro, and I'm just wondering, like, if I'm picking Fidelity over Performance, why wouldn't I want all these things on, or at the highest level possible? I appreciate giving me control, but having these many choices honestly worries me that I'd be playing the game with suboptimal settings without realizing it. Like, when I look back at playing those early PS5 games at 30 frames per second, like, I'm kind of upset that happened. Now, after fiddling around a bit with PS5 Pro, I have no issue stating this is the definitive PlayStation 5 console. I also have no issues not recommending it to anybody. Listen, this is a great piece of hardware. What the f*** am I getting out of this?
It's like, sure, this is better, but jumping between an original PS5 and a PS5 Pro, it's really hard for me to tell any substantial differences. Now, that doesn't mean there aren't any differences, but after spending an excessive amount of time with these Pro consoles throughout history, this is sort of my feeling regarding them as a whole. For the most part, these were all great pieces of hardware for their time, but man, do I feel like I'm going crazy comparing and contrasting. A PS4 Pro feels better, but then I go back to an original PS4 and it's basically the same. It's honestly impressive how well a lot of these original consoles hold up, while also being a bit disappointing how little the Pro models actually change things. So you need to go into these things with the right expectations. I wouldn't say they're night and day differences, rather, they're the exact same console as before, with a little extra legroom. For the most part, every game is meant to run well on the base models of these consoles. The Pro versions are just that, for Pro users. And that's fine. I mean, I enjoy a slightly nicer console, but if this trend continues, I mean, with just how good graphics have gotten, it's just, we've been experiencing diminishing returns for a while. You can keep pumping hundreds of millions of dollars into developing new technologies or putting top-of-the-line specs in these consoles all you want. We're not gonna see a massive leap in visuals. Which means while the PS5 Pro makes sense on paper, I mean, it released 4 years after the PS5. The PS4 Pro released 3 years after the PS4. But in practice, it's just not all too warranted. Technology keeps evolving, but the technology from 5 years ago is still more than enough for everybody. So yeah, you can do this, I just don't see much of a use for it. And for the PS6 Pro, it's gonna be even worse. Oh, it's been 17 minutes. If you excuse me, I have business to attend to.